Alright, welcome back to Gamer Know-How. Today we're going to be looking at another Minecraft edition that I think should be added to the game, and that is a new update for Rotten Flesh. So Rotten Flesh is a pretty useless item as is. It only has like three main purposes. Emergency food, it can be used to tame wolves, and there is a rare villager trade, so you can gain an emerald by getting it, but that trade is super rare. The wolves can also be tamed by bones, which are easier and make more sense. And the emergency food supply is good, but also it gives you starvation, so still not really that reliable. So I think there should be a new update to Rotten Flesh. It would make it more diverse, and I think if we add addition to bones, getting some new food recipes, I think it'd be make night a more profitable session, as most people just skip to the daytime. Hunting monsters at night would be a lot more valuable if there are more food items for bones and rotten flesh. So let's get into it. So cooked, dried, and grilled, beta edition and nothing more. The rotten flesh update was added to the beta update to Minecraft version 1.8. Rotten flesh is dropped by zombie type mobs such as zombies, drowned, husks, zombified villagers, among others such as the zombie horse and zombified piglin. So rotten flesh you can get from zombies. You can also get it from fishing as well, but that's a little bit more rarer. Rotten flesh you can use today as again, emergency food. Eat when nothing else is available. If you eat it, it will give you 4 food, but it will also give you starvation. It will give you hunger. So you'll lose your food bar more quickly. It's a secondary way to tame wolves as well. If you don't have bones, you can use it to tame and heal wolves with it. So it just acts like bones. And there is a rare trade. Some villagers will offer an emerald for 32 rotten flesh as a trade. So while this is some utility for rotten flesh, I mean, you can use bones instead of it. The rare trade only happens sometimes, and emergency food, it's very easy to just get like some seeds and make bread. Or if you spawn in a forest, there's berry bushes, which don't give you hunger when you eat them. So as much as rotten flesh goes, it's still a pretty useless item. So what do I mean by cooked, dried, and grilled? Well, I think you should be able to make rotten flesh edible using the 3 different forms of cooking food, as well as using dried flesh to convert to leather. So let's first get to how to make it edible. Cooked flesh, grilled flesh, and raw flesh. So cooked flesh is accomplished by cooking rotten flesh in a furnace or cooking it twice on a campfire. So you cook it once to make raw flesh, and then cook it again to make cooked flesh. And cooked flesh gives you 8 food, so 4 food points. Grilled flesh is accomplished by cooking it on a smoker. This gives you an additional food, so instead of 8 food, you get 9 food if you cook it on a smoker and you make grilled flesh. As you can see here on the bottom, we have the furnace recipe to make cooked flesh, and then we have the smoker recipe to make grilled flesh. So that gives you 2 new food items for rotten flesh. Raw flesh is accomplished by cooking it on a campfire. So the way you cook on a campfire is you right click a campfire with rotten flesh, you cook it up to 4 of them at a time, and cook it on a campfire to make raw flesh. Cooked flesh can also be made by a campfire by cooking rotten flesh once to make raw flesh, and then cooking it again on a campfire to make cooked flesh. So you can make cooked flesh by either cooking raw flesh on a campfire or cooking rotten flesh in a furnace. And now we get to drying leather, so a new way to farm leather. A lot of mods have this where you can dry rotten flesh to make leather. You make a drying rack, seen here. You use 3 slabs to make a drying rack. You can place a drying rack on a wall as seen in the top picture. You can hang up items, but you can also put up rotten flesh to dry it to make leather. So drying rotten flesh on a drying rack new converts it into leather, adding a new way to gain leather. The drying process should take around the same time it is for wheat to fully grow. So whenever you place wheat into the ground, wheat seeds into the ground, it grows into wheat. I think that should be around the same time it takes to dry rotten flesh. Not make it immediate, make a thing you have to wait for over time, but of course you can dry as many as you want at a time to make a endless supply of leather as long as you kill zombies for it. So I think this would be pretty cool because early on in the game, leather's kind of hard to get to because you have to make a cow farm, and sometimes cows are not as like if you spawn into a desert, perhaps it's going to be hard to find cows there, so it's going to be hard to find leather. But zombies spawn and husks spawn, so you can definitely make leather from drying rotten flesh in the desert or in the snow biomes where cows are are kind of scarce. So I think a new way to make leather, and of course, as we said before in the last 2 videos, I know drying rotten flesh to make leather is a modded thing. A lot of mods have it. But as we said before, Minecraft has added many things from different mods, breaking the rule multiple times. So I don't think the mod thing should be an issue. That said, let's get on to raw flesh recipes. So new food items. Raw flesh, as we said before, you cook rotten flesh on a campfire, you get raw flesh. Raw flesh can be combined with other mob loot items, such as bones from skeletons and red meat from cows, sheep, and pigs. So when you combine raw flesh with a bone, for instance, you get a drumstick. As you can see in the top left image, you can see raw flesh combined with a bone creates a drumstick. And if you have 3 drumsticks, you can put them in a slab recipe in 3 in a row in the middle row to create ribs. So you can make raw drumstick and raw ribs. And of course you can cook these to gain more food. But a raw drumstick will give you 4 food, so that's 2 food points. And raw ribs will give you 6 food, 3 food points. You can also make ribeyes. Steak ribeye, pork ribeye, lamb ribeye gives you 2 to 3 food, and cooked steak, pork, lamb ribeye gives you 8 to 10 food points. As you can see below, you can use either steak, pork, or lamb in the bottom right hand image. 2 steaks and a bone gives you a ribeye. If you want to make a pork ribeye, you have a pork chop, and bone. And a lamb ribeye is a lamb chop, and bone. And that makes you a pork chop, a ribeye. And of course you can do the same thing with cooked if you want to make it a cooked ribeye, but of course you can also cook the raw ribeye to give you the cooked steak, pork, lamb ribeye, which gives you 8 to 10 food points, so that's 4 to 5 total food points. And then we have bone broth. Similar to stew, how mushroom stew is made, you need an empty bowl. Make 2 raw flesh combined with 2 bones gives you bone broth. So, and then you drink bone broth to gain 8 food, so 4 food points. So these are 4 basic recipes. Obviously, in the comments down below, you can add if you have any other ideas, but I think these are 4 basic recipes. Combine raw flesh with bone to get drumstick, 3 drumsticks to make ribs. To make raw ribs, you can cook both. You can have a cooked drumstick and a cooked ribs item that gives you more food. Combine bone with raw red meat, gives you a raw ribeye, and then you can cook it to make a cooked ribeye of any of the 3 basic red meats, steak, pork, and lamb from cows, sheep, and pigs. And make a stew type item with 2 raw flesh and 2 bones to make bone broth. So that gives you 4 basic recipes. You can come in the comment section down below if you have any other ideas for any basic recipes you can make with mob loot. I thought about spider eyes, but then I was like, they poison you, so unless you can find some boiled thing, like maybe boiled spider eyes, like you have to put it in like a cauldron or something to boil it, or put like a cauldron on top of a torch and boil it, maybe, but for right now I just stick with raw flesh and bones. But if you have a creative way to make boiling recipes for spider eyes to make them not poisonous, I would say go right for it. Alright, so we've gone over what rotten flesh used to be. We're saying that we're going to be adding cooked flesh, grilled flesh, and raw flesh. Raw flesh allows you to make different recipes, and of course we have drying rotten flesh to make leather. So a possible timeline for this update. The first update would add cooked, grilled, and raw flesh. So you can make raw flesh. Cooked and grilled would make it so it's more efficient to eat. Raw flesh can be cooked in a campfire twice to make cooked flesh, so still you can make raw flesh. If you cook it twice, you can get cooked flesh. So there's 2 ways to get cooked flesh and 1 way to get grilled flesh from rotten flesh. The next update would add drying racks to allow rotten flesh to be converted to leather, so you can convert rotten flesh to leather on a drying rack. The time in which it takes to convert to leather around the same time it takes wheat to grow, make it more balanced. And then the final update would add raw flesh recipes for new food items. I showed you the 4 basic raw flesh recipes that be added to the game. So that's gonna be it for this video. We overlooked how to overhaul rotten flesh to make it a more useful item. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like if you like, dislike if you don't, subscribe if you like it, and let me know down in the comments if you have any commentary on new recipes that you've thought of. I'd like to hear some new ideas. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a blessed day. Toodaloo.